World War II was a conflict marked by destruction and loss on an unimaginable scale. While the world remembers battles fought and borders redrawn, some of the most disturbing chapters unfolded far from the front lines, shrouded in secrecy and hidden in remote corners of the globe. These were the arenas where science, stripped of its conscience, became a tool for suffering rather than salvation. Among these, one story stands out, a tale so horrifying that governments tried to erase it from history, and one that continues to challenge our understanding of what it means to push the boundaries of knowledge and ethics. To truly understand the events that followed, we must travel back to the late 1930s, to Manchuria in northeastern China. At this time, Japan, driven by a vision of imperial dominance, was expanding its grip over East Asia. The occupation of Manchuria provided an ideal setting, far from prying eyes and under strict military control, for projects that could not be conducted in the open. Here, under the official guise of disease prevention and water purification, a new facility was being constructed. It would become known to history as Unit 731. Behind the creation of this secretive unit stood a man whose intellect was matched only by his ruthlessness. Shiro Ishii, born in 1892, was a rising star in Japan's medical world. Graduating from Kyoto Imperial University, he quickly impressed his superiors with his innovative thinking and relentless ambition. But Ishii's interests soon veered into dangerous territory. He became convinced that biological warfare, the use of pathogens as weapons, could give Japan a decisive advantage in any future conflict. Unlike bombs or bullets, diseases could silently decimate an enemy force, sparing infrastructure and resources. To turn his vision into reality, Ishii needed support from Japan's top military brass. He argued that by understanding and harnessing the power of infectious diseases, Japan could protect its own troops and cripple its enemies. The military, eager for any potential edge, agreed. In 1936, construction began on a vast compound near the city of Harbin. Official documents referred to it as the Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department, but its true purpose was far more sinister. The Pingfan facility that emerged was a marvel of scale and organization. Spanning over 6 square kilometers and containing more than 150 buildings, it featured state-of-the-art laboratories, barracks for staff, a power plant, and, hidden from view, tightly secured prison blocks. At its peak, Unit 731 employed over 3,000 people, including some of Japan's brightest medical minds. Many believed they were contributing to legitimate research, protecting soldiers from disease and ensuring the health of the nation. But others, especially those in Ishii's inner circle, knew the truth. Unit 731 was meticulously organized, with specialized departments handling everything from bacterial research to chemical weapons development. There were teams dedicated to creating new types of bombs, others tasked with producing and testing chemical agents, and some whose job was to design and execute experiments on living human subjects. Efficiency and secrecy were the watchwords. The unit operated in near-total isolation, and few outside its walls had any idea of the horrors unfolding inside. What happened at Unit 731 represents one of the darkest episodes in the history of science. The experiments conducted by Ishii and his colleagues defy comprehension. Victims, most of them Chinese civilians, but also Soviet prisoners of war and others, were subjected to deliberate infection with deadly diseases: anthrax, plague, cholera, typhus, and more. Every stage of illness was documented in detail, as doctors observed the progression of symptoms with clinical detachment. For the researchers, these men, women, and children were not human beings, but specimens, data points in a gruesome experiment. Perhaps most disturbing of all were the surgical procedures carried out without anesthesia. Prisoners were vivisected, cut open alive, so scientists could study the effects of disease on living organs. Limbs were amputated and organs removed, often in the name of pure observation, with no effort made to relieve pain or suffering. In other experiments, subjects were exposed to extreme temperatures to study the effects of frostbite and hypothermia. Limbs were frozen, then thawed in various ways, as researchers sought to perfect methods of treating cold injuries in the field. Unit 731's work was not confined to the laboratory. The unit developed biological bombs, which were tested on prisoners tied to stakes in open fields. Researchers wanted to see how effectively diseases could be spread through different delivery methods, and how quickly infections could devastate entire populations. These experiments were later extended to real-world attacks on Chinese villages, where plague-infected fleas and contaminated supplies caused outbreaks that killed thousands. The scope of suffering inflicted by Unit 731 is staggering. The victims came from every walk of life: farmers, teachers, intellectuals, soldiers, and children. To the men of Unit 731, they were known simply as logs, a dehumanizing term that spoke to the utter disregard for life at the heart of the program. Conservative estimates suggest at least 3,000 people died in the unit's experiments. But when accounting for the biological warfare attacks carried out across China, the true number of victims may reach into the hundreds of thousands. As World War II drew to a close and Soviet forces advanced into Manchuria, the leaders of Unit 731 moved swiftly to erase the evidence of their crimes. Prisoners were executed, documents burned, and the facility itself was destroyed with explosives. But the secrets of Unit 731 would not remain hidden forever. In the chaotic aftermath of Japan's surrender, American authorities discovered evidence of the unit's activities. What happened next remains a stain on the history of post-war justice. Realizing the value of the data collected by Unit 731, particularly in the context of the burgeoning Cold War U.S. military officials under the direction of General Douglas MacArthur, struck a deal. In exchange for immunity from prosecution, Shiro Ishii and his top researchers handed over their research to the Americans. The information was deemed too valuable to destroy, and those responsible for some of the most heinous war crimes in history walked free. Unlike their counterparts in Germany, who faced judgment at the Tokyo War Crimes Tribunal, the men of Unit 731 were conspicuously absent from the dock. The legacy of Unit 731 is both a warning and a call to vigilance. The revelations of its crimes, along with those of Nazi doctors, led to a new era of medical ethics. The Nuremberg Code, and later the Declaration of Helsinki, established principles that continue to guide research today: informed consent, respect for human dignity, and strict oversight of experiments. These safeguards exist because of the lessons learned from places like Unit 731. In recent years, survivors, families, and historians have fought to ensure that the memory of Unit 731's victims is preserved. Museums and memorials stand as reminders of the past and as warnings for the future. They urge us never to forget that scientific progress must always be grounded in humanity and ethics. Unit 731 stands as a stark reminder of how easily moral boundaries can be crossed when people are dehumanized and ethical standards are abandoned. As we continue to push the frontiers of science and medicine, we must remember that some knowledge is too costly to pursue, and that the ends never justify the means. Only by confronting and remembering these dark chapters can we hope to ensure that such horrors are never repeated. If you enjoyed this historical journey, please support our channel by liking, subscribing, and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to click the bell icon.